Oh, my darling, will we ever be together? I feel like this war is just going to keep us apart forever.
Well, I certainly hope we can be together, but only time will tell. There's just all these barriers standing in the way. All we want to do is talk about our weeks.
Yes, and about the things we played and watched and listened to.
Indeed. All we want to do is just keep up to date on these things on a weekly basis, but life just wants to stand in the way of us.
But whatever can we do, darling? How will we survive? I mean, what is the future for us?
Well, I think we're going to be okay in the end, because when it comes down to it, we're just a couple of queer and pleasant strangers.
Greetings, strangers, queer and pleasant. I'm not Laura Kate Dale.
And I'm not Jane Eyre Spector, and welcome to another episode of Queer and Pleasant Strangers, that podcast where two queer trans ladies talk about our weeks and do silly voices and skits and generally have a bit of a giggle together for a while. How are you doing this week, Jane?
Yeah. You similarly.
Yeah, this is the thing, the last couple of weeks of like how have you been this week have just been us going,
The last couple of weeks have been the click, 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 click.
It's like you're on an...
And Saturday morning is going to be...
The last couple of weeks have been like being on an exercise bike when you think you're on a real bicycle and you're like pedaling really fast but just not going anywhere, and you're like, I need to get to the place, I'm moving my feet fast, why isn't it going faster?
I liked my roller coaster analogy.
I like your roller coaster analogy as well, but that's the picture I've had in my head all week. Is just I thought I was on a normal bike, but I'm on an exercise bike. I'm spinning my wheels.
Scream if you want to move faster. Yeah, at the moment my flat's become incredibly depressing because it is just a mountain of my crap in boxes and bin bags, and then, you know...
Yeah, my office is currently just like, well...
A laptop, a desk.
There's a laptop on a desk, and a glass of water, and that's about it.
Glass of water? Bloody luxury.
Oh, I know, a glass of water. I might even have a slice of bread later.
A whole slice of bread.
Oh, I know, they do spoil me here in this office.
I used to dream of a slice of bread. Let's not go there.
To be fair, I'll be eating a slice of bread because it's about all the house... About all the house? It's about all the food I've got left in the house, because I'm currently, like, trying to get down the food so that, like, I'm not trying to move a bunch of food.
I'm a terrible hoarder of discount food, so I've had to eat a lot of chickpeas in the last couple of weeks. They're on sale!
That is totally fair. Like, I am a hoarder of, like, frozen ready meals when they're cheap, so this week has been, like, several days of, like, okay, let's get rid of those frozen chicken curries that have just been sat in the freezer.
Frozen curry. Oh, God.
I know.
I don't have the space in my freezer for
Aren't you excited?
I barely got the space in there for the ice that glues itself to the ceiling.
Aren't you excited to have freezer space?
Oh, it's been my greatest dream for the last 19 months while I've been living here.
I am so excited because the next time we record this, we're going to be recording both of us in the same room.
Dum dum dum.
I know, no more recording over Skype. It's going to be very weird to be able to see each other when we do this.
It is. I imagine it's only going to get more off-putting.
It's one of those things, like, I've podcasted in the same room as people before, like, most of the episodes that were recorded of the Crystal Clodcast, which is the Steven Universe podcast I did for a while, they were all recorded in the same room, but generally, podcasting for me is just me staring at one square of blank wall. That's just what podcasting is. It's me talking to the wall and waiting for it to talk back.
Talk to the wall, because the internet's listening.
So, with that out the way, should we do the things of the week, or have you got anywhere else you want to go?
Well, you know, I want to go to our new flat. That's where I want to go.
Oh, I won't go there too. But by the time you hear this, we'll probably be there.
It's true.
I know.
This will be... Well, I'm going to do my half of the edit probably tonight or tomorrow.
Yeah,
and then set it ready to upload.
I am going to do my bit of the edit, like, the morning after we record. And then I'll it's going to be a weird few days, but by the time you hear this, we will hopefully just be, like, in a new place and everything will be very nice.
We will be collapsed in a heap, surrounded by empty boxes, hopefully. And a very confused cat.
I think that's very optimistic to think all of the boxes will be empty by the time
not all of
hear
them,
this.
But a good nightly number of boxes, I feel, will probably be emptied.
I think we can hope to have a few boxes at least empty by the time this goes up. So yeah, let's hope. We'll cross our fingers. Let's make our way through the mountain. Yes. Feel free to tweet us and ask how many empty boxes are there, and we'll let you know. So what have you been playing this week? Because that's usually where we start.
That's my list. I have played. I mentioned it briefly last week. I played Streets of Red, and now I've finished Streets of Red, and I want to play more Streets of Red.
Well, when we are in the new place, we can play some of it co-op. But have your thoughts on it changed much since you last played it?
Well, given that I'd only played maybe sort of 10-15 minutes of it last week, I didn't. I was just thinking I enjoyed this from the standpoint of it's a nice classic style brawler, but now I have actual thoughts. It's awesome. You get to pick from your four nerds that have been surrounded by zombies suddenly at a gaming convention, and they each seem to be based off other video games. So you have one guy who gets a sword and shield and is very much basically sort of your Link character. There's a Shovel Knight guy, sort of a burly guy with a beard. There is a woman with a dog, but when you actually start sort of playing the game, she's wearing Magitech, like the mech suit walkie things from Final Fantasy VI. And then there is a small, short ninja guy who is awesome. Teenage person armed with Sai, who I don't know. I'm thinking maybe Turtles Arcade, because I can only think of Raphael being a famous ninja person with Sai. Yeah, it's really good. You get you sort of start off at your sort of level select screen. You can pick one of 4 stages to play through, and depending on which order you pick them in, you will play however many extra stages. So you'll play one part of the first stage, two of the second, and so on and so on. So depending on which order you play them, you might see much much more of one particular stage, which means there is a good amount of replayability. Sort of see all the different bits. I found Jim. Lovely boy Jim.
That's good. You can make sure you shepherd us through the levels in the right way that I get to see Jim too.
Well, I mean, he is an evolved boss in every single one along that particular track.
Nice.
So in the first one, he is just sort of like leaping around, shooty bang bang, sort of firing a big laser cannon across the screen, because he seems to be some kind of cyborg. And then he'll be sort of flying around and bombarding you in the next stage. And the stage after that, he's basically a giant Terminator head on wheels. I haven't seen the stage 4 of that. So I will have to go back and try that one. There's another one where you seem to be sort of the main boss that you encounter starts off as it's been too long since I watched Strangly Thongs.
Season 1 or Season 2?
Season 1. Demogorgon.
Demogorgon, yeah.
It was the Demogorgon. So the first stage looks very much like the Demogorgon, but by the time you get to, I think it's the 3rd stage, it looks like a giant alien queen. And that's a really fucking cool boss fight.
That sounds pretty heckin' cool.
It's got this nice little mechanic where basically if you do a finisher, a special move to like kill any of your enemies, you will get extra money. Depending on how many you kill, you can get bonuses. You can get bonus health for killing like 3 or 4 or up to 6, I think, with a fatality. Yeah. So you'll get more money and occasionally some health. The more money you get, because there's no life system. Basically, you can buy additional credits with your money. and the cost for credits goes up the further through the game you get.
Okay, that's
But
interesting.
you can also use that money for purchasing bonuses. So you can, at the end of every level, the little slot machine thing comes up. You can pick from 4 different power-ups if you can afford them. And you have an option of things like run faster, more special power, more health, do more damage, knock people over as you run past them. Sort of all different power-ups and some very specific to your characters tied to their special moves about how you can do those or what damage they do, what range they do. It's really good. So it's got all that nice sort of classic brawler style. It's the controls are really good, and then you've got like the extra sort of modern things of permadeath. Once you run out of money to buy new credits, that is it. Your save is wiped. You have to start back at the beginning. It's really good.
I'm very excited to try some.
We shall play it together.
Indeed, we shall.
What have you played?
So I started playing something, and I've played a bit more since I last talked to you about it.
Okay.
That I don't know how to feel about yet. Still, I'm not super keen on it.
That one.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about Agatha Knife, which we've both played some of, and I played a bit more of during my work day today.
Okay.
So Agatha Knife is a sort of 2D perspective.
It's point and click.
Pardon?
It's a point and click.
It's a point and click, except you're like using a controller interface that isn't great. It's a sort of like adventure point and click game where you play as this 7-year-old girl who lives in a butcher shop, and she likes animals, but she also really likes meat and cutting up the animals to make meat to eat. And it seems like it's going entirely for like shock value juxtaposition of here is cute aesthetic and dark subject material. Like, that seems like it's the game's whole gimmick is, let's put something cute opposite something really horrifying. And the whole idea of the game is that to try and reconcile the fact that she likes animals, but also likes meat, and animals, you know, don't like getting killed, she basically wants to start her own religion to A, increase meat sales in the butchers, and B, make the animals not scared when she goes to cut them up. And the two things I'm really taking away from the game right now, the control scheme is not intuitive. So you use the left stick to move the character around, the right stick to move the sort of what would be your mouse pointer around. You then, only when you're like over a thing that you can interact with, have to press a button to bring up the list of interactions you can do, that then correspond to different buttons to do those different interactions. There was something early on that we both had to deal with where it's like, okay, you have to put a form in a slot. So you don't just get the form, you have to walk over, move the pointer, bring up your interactions on the form, pick up the form, go to the place where the slot is, you click on the slot, and you're like, oh, there's no interaction to use things from my bag, so you have to go into the bag, select the item, get the item out, move the pointer back to the slot, then you get the option to put the thing in the slot. And it's just, everything about trying to control this game just feels clunky and stilted and slow.
There was actually another step in there you missed.
What step did I skip?
The extra step is that you have to get the form out once already and then click it on the confessional box.
Oh, yes.
The guy then says, okay, stick it in the slot. You then have to get it back out of your inventory and put it back in the box.
Yeah.
It's just painful to control.
It's painfully cluttered. And then the other thing that just, like, I've come across more of this since we played the other night. It feels like every bit of NPC interaction is just designed to be as shocking as possible. And it's weird, because there are points at which the dialogue is almost progressive, but it's sort of made it's made weird by the fact that these, like, very progressive-y conversations are being had with a 7-year-old, and it's like, I don't know if this is appropriate, and again, it seems to be trying to go for this juxtaposition of this thing, but also this. They don't go together. A lot of the conversations that happen just make no sense why you would talk about them. Like, one of the first conversations I had with an NPC was, like, a father and son at a grave, and the father talking about, like, oh yeah, no, my son's distraught because I dug up his mother who died, who he was grieving for, and made her into soup and fed it to him, and
Because
that
he
did
wouldn't
not
stop whining.
Yeah, and that didn't stop his grieving. It made him grieve more. What on earth? And it seems like it's just going for cuteness juxtaposed with horrifying thoughts. And the more I play of that game, the more that continues to be the case. I'm just not enjoying it. It's a lot of words and very slow and clunky and, like, just... It's trying to shock me, but it's so transparent in how it's trying to do it.
Yeah, and I think that, the fact that obviously you've got the elderly couple who are talking about religion, you've got the father and son, the son is seriously grieving and then traumatized on top of that by the father. You've got your mother who seems to be fairly despondent, and then you meet the trans sex worker outside the church, and it's like, okay, it's nice to see that there is a representation of a trans character who identifies themselves as male, but likes wearing feminine clothing. Absolutely fine. Then you make that person a sex worker, which is horribly tropey.
Yeah.
And then you have the fact that their idle animation is the top of their dress falls down. They then pull that up, wink at the camera, and then after a couple of seconds they scratch their junk.
So all of that is weird and tropey, but it's also juxtaposed with, like, when that sex worker is talking about sex work, they talk about it in a really, like, positive way, where they're like,
I really
hey,
love
look,
my job.
it's just like any other work, I enjoy what I do. Sure, there are some issues with, like, people being trafficked into this work, and that is not good, however, that is not the case for me. You know, any prejudices you might have about sex work are probably because of the way you were brought up, and you were probably brought up with those prejudices, so I'm not going to judge you for having them. Like, the conversation there was good. It was just, like, wrapped in this tropey, weird packaging. Oh, yeah. I'm not enjoying playing it, but it doesn't feel like... It's not like one of those games where, like, the whole point of it is to go... lol, SJW snowflakes or something. Like, there are points where it's clearly written from, like, a fairly progressive understanding of things, and it makes criticisms of things like religion that I personally look at and go, yeah, that feels like a fair assessment of some religions, but I struggle with this game. I want to like it, but it doesn't... but I can't like it.
Exactly, and because it seems to be trying to be quite edgy some of the time, like, it then makes me flinch about some of the trans characters, because that's not the only the sex worker you meet outside the church is not the only person, because I'm pretty sure later on you meet Lady Beard, of
like,
internet fame and wherever else.
Yeah, there are definitely, like, non-traditional gender-presenting characters.
That
are, like, fairly well presented at times, but also really badly presented at times, and I just can't work out what this... I don't understand what position... Who created this game? Like, I don't understand what kind of person makes both of the halves of this game that don't mesh.
Yeah, it's odd. It has a weird sort of dissonance to it. The other thing that I really struggled with was the fact that the font it starts the game in is it looks like a 7-year-old child's handwriting,
which is really hard to read.
Obviously fits quite well with the theme, but at the same time you also have, I can't read this, and it took a while for me to realise that I can just pop into the inventory and change the text to sort of a more legible one.
There's not really anything to say if you go into your inventory bag that will give you a prompt to change the text. You sort of have to push through, like, a good 20 minutes of this game to the point that you first need to get an item out of your bag. And then it's like, oh yeah, do you want to swap to this actually readable text? It's like, oh god, yes, please.
Yeah, I mean, that should have been somewhere much further on, much nearer the beginning.
Indeed.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sort of morbidly curious about what happens next.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I'm that far through it.
Yeah, it's apparently
we haven't actually set the religion up.
It's apparently 6 to 8 hours long.
Oh, sweet Christmas! I'm not
Yeah.
sure I can be bothered with that.
That's the thing is,
Maybe not, then.
if this was like 3 to 4 hours max, maybe I might sit and like force my way through just to see what happens. But like at 6 to 8, I'm like, I can't bring myself to plod through this game for that long.
No, yeah.
Which is
Okay.
yeah.
I might just give up on that now.
Yeah, it's a shame.
Yeah.
So what have you played this week?
I have also been playing some more Splatoon 2.
Oh, we both did a bit of that this week, didn't we?
Yeah, not been super happy with that lately.
Yeah, like the summary is something's happened very recently that means people are playing a lot more aggressively and shooting at other players rather than the floors and walls quite so much, and it's changed up the pacing of online.
Yeah. Like, I mean, I'm not great at sort of fine manual aiming without a keyboard and mouse, especially not in third person. So I've always quite enjoyed the fact that Splatoon is more about avoiding your opponents, spraying as much as the level as possible, a little bit of killing here and there if you happen to run face to face.
If you turn a corner and they're right in front of you, you try and kill them so that they don't kill you, but that's really only when you engage in combat.
Yeah. Well, certainly the way I play, and that's been a valid way to play. And you too, because you use the splat.
Yeah, I use the rollers because, again, I'm not great at aiming, and, you know, that allows me to just run around painting the floor, trying to avoid combat, and, like, just trying to get everything covered, and I really enjoy that. But that's been less viable this week.
Yeah, I've noticed, like... Oh, when was it? I think it was last Saturday I started playing again, and I noticed that all of a sudden, it wasn't so much, okay, make sure you paint your base. And it's been a thing that's propped up in, like, the lobby area. Like, people have had, as their doodles, paint your base, paint your base, paint your base. But for the last week or so, it's been charge straight to the middle and fuck up your opponents.
Oh, even more than that, it's like, it's been charged to the middle and do some quick painting, then charge for the other end. And if it's a map where you can reach their base... Basically, try and have 2 or 3 people spawn camp. Yep. And, like, because you know exactly where people are going to respawn from, pop them before they can escape their base, and then leave, like, 1 or 2 people at most painting the map. Yep. And it's just... We've been trying to work out what's happened. Either there's been some kind of balance change, or it's been something to do with the Splatoon championships happening, and... Something's just changed the way people have been playing. Apparently, like, there's quite a big balance change patch coming, like, pretty soon, so... Yeah. Fingers crossed that changes things a little bit, but it's...
I hope so, because if not, I'm going to be very glad that I didn't buy the expansion, and that's probably going to be it for me for Splatoon.
Well, here's the thing. I enjoyed the single-player content enough that I will probably still pick up the expansion, because it's single-player focused, and I will probably still enjoy it, but... Yeah, I've had a good, like, you know, better part of a year of fun out of Splatoon. Like, it's been a really fun game for us to play together, like, while we've been, like, apart. It's been a really nice, like, multiplayer thing to do. But this last week has been just, it's felt a bit weird.
Yeah, it's felt like COD with paint as opposed to Splatoon that I've been used to.
Yeah, and I'm just hoping that this is, like, the natural ebbs and flows of, like, any game online. Like... There's a certain degree of, if you jump in a game at launch, it's when it's got the widest player base, and you will most likely get paired up with people who want to play like you. The longer you stick with a game like this, obviously, like, the people who are still there are the more hardcore dedicated people, and that's going to affect the online experience as it goes, but I'm hoping this sort of flows back the other way soon.
I hope so. I mean, like, I'll probably dip into it again after the move, but for the moment I'm not impressed, which is a shame, because this will be the second, like, multiplayer online game where a balance change has just made me go after many hours of play, just going, I'm done.
What was the first one?
The other one was Awesome Noughts. I got really into Awesome Noughts. I'm about 700 hours into that, and that's probably the most I've played any online game because I don't really get on with anything that's got chat in it.
Yeah, that's fair.
So, yeah, and they vastly changed Voltar, which was the only character I ever played. So I've not really gone back to it. Although recently it's gone free to play. So I imagine there's at least a good number of people playing in there.
Yeah, fair enough.
Because that was another issue that Autonauts had. That towards the end of, probably about 2 years ago now, it was just starting to... You'd probably find maybe the same 15 people on every night, and that was about it.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the thing. Even if it ends up sort of dying away for us soon, we got a lot of good out of that game. I still think that like we got our money's worth out of it.
Oh, definitely. I've had over 60 hours of play out of it, so
Nice.
Can't deny I've had my money's worth. But
Yeah.
that's not to say that I wouldn't like to play more the way I enjoyed it.
That's fair.
What else have you played?
So I've been playing a few things this week. I'll skim through a couple of them like pretty quickly. So, as we've been doing like trading card games of old and trying to get back into those, we did some of the Pokemon trading card game. We did some Magic the Gathering. Yu-Gi-Oh was my one of choice for the longest time, and there are two things I know about Yu-Gi-Oh. One, I used to very much enjoy it, and two, I definitely never want to get back into buying cards for that ever. So I was like, okay, maybe there's like some kind of happy medium where I can see where the game is sort of at. And I found a website that I was recommended. That's one I used to use. Like, it's been around donkey's years under one name or another. I believe it's called Dueling Book is the current name of the site, duelingbook.com. And it's basically a completely free-to-play site where it's like, here is every single Yu-Gi-Oh card ever made. And it keeps up to date on the ban list of like, right, you can have this many of this card and can't have this one at all, and here's your things. Put together your deck, we'll matchmake you, play some free Yu-Gi-Oh! So I jumped on there, and I was basically like, I'm gonna make a deck of cards that I understand from playing a decade ago, and probably not win many matches, but it's fine, and just see how it goes. And I won a surprising number of games. I did not do nearly as badly as I thought I would with my decade-old deck that completely ignores all of the new mechanics that they've introduced. And I at least now understand how some of those mechanics work. I was very, like, apologetic in the chat box. Every time a match started, I'd be like, hey, just a heads up, I'm probably going to lose. I'm probably going to have to ask some questions. I've not played since Synchro Summons were new about a decade ago. And surprisingly, the community on there was really good. They were very much like, yeah, it's no worries. Just, you know, give us a shout if you've got a question. We'll talk you through it. Ended up making a friend. I ended up chatting to someone on there and just having a really nice time and made a friend. So I generally had a surprisingly positive time. I still don't understand how half of these new mechanics work, but I know how to do the things that I used to do on the current version of the game, Matt, so that's fine. And the type of deck I used to enjoy playing is still, like, at least vaguely usable for, like, entry-level play, so I had a decent time. So, yeah, I played some online Yu-Gi-Oh! And I feel like I kind of understand what the game is now better than I did a week ago.
Nice.
Yeah, what about you? Have you played anything else?
What have I played? Oh, yes. Last thing I have fiddled about with playing-wise is a short experience called It's Spring Again, just released on Switch.
Oh, yeah.
It is a touchscreen only, so it's got to be played in handheld mode. Educational experience for ages 2 and up. Now, I am clearly considerably older than that.
Indeed.
By many, many percent. However, I was so taken by the art style in the Switch shop, I decided to pick it up with some of those coins I've randomly acquired over the time I've been switching. So it's about 10 minutes long. And it takes you it teaches you the seasons with this absolutely stunning art style and very, very cute.
I looked at your images of it that you put up, and it does look very adorable. I can't deny that.
So you have a little creature that will sort of stand sort of in the mid-ground, and it changes sort of in the summer. It's sort of quite in the spring it's sort of quite a I can't remember what the spring one is. I know the summer one is sort of quite wafy and sort of almost horse-like, and the winter one is very woolly, clearly wrapped up nice and warm. But then you've also got the three trees who look like little people holding their arms up, and they get different hairstyles throughout the year. And then there's the world, who will you sort of quick click around and make all the flowers bloom, or mushrooms grow in the autumn. Mushrooms. But in winter the earth gets little mittens. And if you click on its face, it sort of hides its eyes. Oh, it's really fucking adorable.
It does sound very adorable.
And yeah, you can get through in about 10 minutes. If you have little people in your life, then maybe you should give that a go, if only to look at the art style. Other than that, just Google the art. It's really pretty.
It does sound like a very sweet thing to share with little people.
It is. Do you have anything else that you have planned?
Yeah, I have a couple of things to quickly rattle off. I've been playing more of Binding of Isaac. I've literally just checked on my Switch. I was like, how much Binding of Isaac have I played since... Because, like, this is the first time I've, like, really got into this game properly.
Yeah.
Binding of Isaac Afterbirth Plus, 55 hours or more. So, like, that's more than I have ever put into that game before. The big update since last time is I managed to beat the game on hard mode, and I put myself up to greed mode, which is the next difficulty up, and greed mode is a bit more... It's a little bit different how it's laid out. Like, the big difference is, rather than a series of rooms where you're sort of, like, finding your path and trying to find, like, okay, here's the room where this one upgrade is, and here's the boss room, and then I can progress. Instead, you are in a single room, and you're fighting waves of enemies. You can cut off the waves early before they have a natural break in them, but it does...
Stand on the spiky pattern.
Yeah, it does half a heart of damage to you to do that, so you're encouraged to do 8 waves of enemies, and if you can beat them before a timer runs out, then you're only fighting one wave at a time. If you don't defeat the wave before the timer runs out, the next wave comes in and you're having to deal with the end of one wave and the start of another at once. And then you've got 2 waves of bosses that are very similarly done. And the whole idea is, every time you beat a wave, coins get dropped, and then you have to decide whether to spend your coins on healing, or on keys for item rooms, or to purchase upgrades. It's definitely a very different way of pacing the game. I'm enjoying it. It took me a while to get the hang of, sort of getting the pacing of how best to make use of the money you've got, but I definitely see the appeal, and I'm very much enjoying greed mode, so I managed to make it to the final boss of greed mode, and then get my ass kicked by it. So, I managed to get that far. I was definitely not prepared for that boss, but I got to it and saw it for a couple of seconds.
I can't remember if I've ever got as far as actually fighting greed, but I have had a bit of a stab in.
I was fighting Ultra Greed, which was greed and then some, and it was very scary. So that is my continued progress. Is I now feel like vaguely... Like, if someone saw me playing The Binding of Isaac, they wouldn't think I was terrible at that game now. So I'm like, yeah, I'm making progress.
Yay.
I'm very tempted to go back to, like, the lowest difficulty, because I suspect I'd probably be amazed by how much easier I find it now. So yeah, that's my update on the Binding of Isaac. And I've got a couple of other things to rattle through very quickly. I went and saw my parents over the weekend, and I learnt to play a couple of physical boardy card game things. The first one, I played Mahjong for the first time.
Ooh, I own a Mahjong set, but I've never played.
So, Here's the thing about Mahjong. Mahjong is kind of similar to if you've ever played card games like Rummy, where a big part of what you're trying to do is sort your hand so that you've got like a run and a straight and a set of 4 or whatever. Like, you're trying to build a hand of cards to use your 7 cards to be like, aha, I have this hand, I've completed a hand, therefore because I did it first I win. And it's a very similar idea here, but with tiles. And there's some different rules about when and how you can pick up either the face-up cards people have tiles that people have discarded, or whether you're taking from the walls that are all face down, so you don't know what you're taking. But the big difference between this and those sort of card games is, oh my goodness, there are so many different types of hands you can build that all have their own unique rules behind them. So, if you're playing Mahjong and you're a beginner, I highly suggest investing in a pair, or like however many people you want to play, of good, high quality, very visual books for what sort of hands you can put together. I was playing at my parents' with a book that basically had them sorted by things like, okay, are you going for runs, or are you going for 4-of-a-kind hands, or are you going for hands that involve these types of tiles? It was very well organised, so I could find a thing and be like, oh, I see roughly what I want to go for. But you either have to be very good at keeping, like, pages and pages and pages and pages of different options of types of hands you can go for in your head at once, or be comfortable with flipping back and forth through a book and changing, like, oh, I want to go for this type of hand instead. Let me flick through the book and find one that I could maybe go for in that.
Oh, good gravy. That sounds a bit much.
It was a bit intimidating. What I would say about Mahjong is, I feel like if this was, like, your game, this is the game that you really enjoy playing, and you played it enough that, like, you've started to recognise those hands properly, I can see how there is an awful lot of depth to it. Like, how this could be a really nice step up from a card game like Rummy to have, like, this much broader set of things you can be going for, but it is definitely... it's a lot to take in. And, yeah.
Because when I think of Mahjong, I'm used to, like, the just tile matching game.
Yeah.
Which is not real Mahjong.
Yeah, no, so this version, it's like wearing a deck of cards. You've got like 4 suits that are 2 to ace or whatever. Here you have 3 suits that are numbered 1 to 9, but you also have 2 types of suits that only have 4 of them each. So you've got the 4 directions of the wind, so north, east, south, and west, and you've got the 4 colours of dragons. And of every individual tile, there are 4 of that tile available. So if you need like a north wind and it's gone already, there are still 3 more in the deck, as it were. But yeah, it feels like games like Rummy, where you're trying to make straights and pairs and things like that to build a hand. But the far more complicated end point of that. And I feel like if you get it and you get into it, there's a lot of game there to love. And I think I picked it up relatively okay, but there's a lot going on.
Well, perhaps you can teach me how to use the set I bought many, many years ago.
Indeed, I'll see if my mum can help us get a couple of the books of hands that we had at hers, because those were very well laid out. And we'll see if we can give it a go. And the other one that I played was a card game that I'd never played before, just with a couple of decks of cards. It's called Up and Down the River, and every player gets dealt a hand of 11 cards every turn, and you start, like, I think it starts at 6, works up to 11, and then back down to 6 over the rounds. And the whole idea is, if it's the first round and the number is 6, you've got to make 3 of a kind and 3 of a kind, and the first one to make the 2 3-of-a-kinds out of their 11 cards, which adds up to the 6, which is the total, because 2 3s, wins that hand, and any cards the other players have left at that point they, get a score for, and that, makes them lose. But it changes each round, so it's like, what is it? I think if you're trying to make 3 of something, it has to be 3 of a kind, and if you're trying to make a straight, it has to be 4. So, like, the second round is 7, so it's 3 of a kind and a run of 4. Then the next round is 8, so it's 2 runs of 4. And it's this ever-shifting, like, okay, you're trying to, like, discard cards, pick up new cards to make whatever type of hand that round requires you to make.
This all sounds horribly complicated.
It wasn't as complicated in practice as I'm probably making it sound. It's one of those card games where you're trying to build a set hand and you pick up a card and then discard 1 card from your hand trying to build it. The thing I thought was interesting about this one is at any time, even if it's not your turn in the turn order, if someone discards a card and that's one you want, you can ask to buy that card. If whoever's turn it would be in the turn order to take it, if they wanted, has priority, they can say, no, you can't buy it, I want to have it. But if you want to, if they agree and let you buy it out of turn order, you pick it up, but you also have to pick up an extra card. And the whole aim is to get rid of your hand, so it's like, oh, okay, if a card goes past and you need it, you can get it, but you're penalised for that. Which is like a mechanic I've not seen in those kind of games before. Normally it's just, oh, that card went past. When it wasn't my turn to pick it up, I'm just screwed. You have the option to be like, I want to buy that card, but everyone at the table then sort of knows what you're going for, and you've had to take an extra card to do it. It was an interesting way of penalising, but giving you options to not miss out on something.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, so that's what I played this week. That's everything we've played, I think, isn't it?
I believe so. Oh, no, you have one other.
Oh, what was the other?
Naruto Shippuden Trilogy.
Oh, that's alright. I'll talk about that next week.
Okay.
No worries. So yeah, that's everything we've talked about, I think, isn't it?
It is indeed.
Huzzah! Well, now for whatever this thing is. Hi.
Hi there, welcome to our car showroom. How can I help you today? Would you like to buy one of our cars? We got some cars.
Oh, it's just after a bit of additional information. I'm looking ideally for a Alfa Romeo 147, one of the 2008 ones, 1.9 litre engine diesel. You got any of those in? You know?
Do you know what colour that one comes in? We got some cars.
I don't really care about the colour. I was specifically after a particular type of make. Do you know if you got one in?
We got this one's got it's got all the wheels on it, including the steering wheel. It's very nice. It's quite. We've had it cleaned recently. We have them out on the lot sometimes. Sometimes they get a bit rained on. So we've given it a wash. It's a nice car.
Can you tell me about anything about the type of brake pads this one's got?
Pretty sure it'll have brakes on it. We had to move it when we were doing the washing earlier. Yeah, I think it stops okay. And hang on, just. Yeah, give it a push. Definitely got some brakes on there. Yeah.
Right. What about the suspension arm? What sort of suspension arm setup has it got? Is it original or is it a retrofitted replacement one?
Give me a sec. Looks pretty new. It's. I mean, there's all sorts going on down there. I mean, it's got nice seats in it. They're probably leather or something, and they're sort of grey. You think that might be the kind of thing you're looking for?
I'm a bit confused. Do you know anything about cars?
I know that one's blue, and it's got some wheels on it. That bit's the steering wheel. I know that.
I'm gonna be fair. This is actually a real relief. I know nothing about cars. I googled some words before coming here to sound like I knew what I was on about for ordering. I'm gonna be honest. I want one that's blue and that looks quite nice and that maybe has a CD player. You got one of those?
I think that one's got a CD player because I was listening to a bit of Rammstein earlier.
That's all right. Well, look, when we go by it, if anyone like walks past also doing things, I'm gonna say some more car words, and we'll pretend that like we know what we're. It's all right. I'll cover for you. We'll pretend we know what we're doing.
To be fair, I just blagged my way through the job interview, so it's pretty much my first day, and I haven't got a fucking clue.
You know all those words I was saying. I was literally just looking at a car parts website and just reading off words to sound like I knew what I was doing. So
I should have tried that. Nice plan.
Oh no, it's a good old one. Just type in any old make a car and just say words. They sound all right. Thank you very much. I'll take the blue one with the CD player.
Blue one with a CD player coming right up. That's I don't know, what's 100 quid? That seem alright?
That sounds. I don't know. That sounds fine to me.
I don't know what's good for the car.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. 100 quid.
Awesome. Woo.
Oh, goodness. Oh, it's almost time for us to end up somewhere else in the flowing stream that is the life of a water molecule.
Oh, it's true. We move on. We move through the world. And never stopping, never doing the same thing.
You remember when we were at Waterfall the other week, because we remember that, because water has memories, because homeopathy is a real thing. Oh,
absolutely.
It was so fun. We were just rushing down there so fast.
Oh, rushing. Oh, we had such a lovely view from the top, and then, splashing down and travelling along the stream before we were bottled up by, some unspeakable human beings.
Oh, what do you reckon we're going to be next? I'm waiting for the next big thing. We could be... If you're part of the ocean, we could be the great divide between lands, or, we could be an ice cube in a fancy martini that's going to be served to some member of royalty. Who knows? What do you reckon?
Absolutely. Well, I imagine since I was bottled, I'd probably be pissed for a while, but, I think I could probably get used to that. And then maybe we'll move on and get treated, because I do like a good nice treat.
Oh, a good nice treatment.
And then I don't know. I could be anything. There's so much possibility. I might try being a cloud for a while.
Oh, those beautiful, beautiful clouds. So many wonderful things we could. I think we're about to be poured into. We're being poured into a kettle. What are we going to be? Are we going to be a cup of tea, cup of coffee? Going to keep someone awake while they have a very important meeting, perhaps.
I might be using this to mop the floor. Might want some very hot water for a good clean floor.
We're going to be so. Oh no.
Oh.
Oh no. Oh no. I know what we're going to be.
What are we going to be? What are we going to be?
We're being poured into a drunken student's pot noodle.
Oh God, they're just going to fall asleep and leave us here. Quick, agitate, float to the top and try and float away steam.
No, it's too late. We're being sucked into the powder. We're just going to get thrown away. I've drunk it too.
So, what have you listened to this week?
Ooh, many things. I listened to an album called Unleash Yourself by Inako. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. They are a punk band from Brooklyn, and I basically googled queer punk, and Inako came out. So it's a punk album, self-produced.
Mm-hmm.
It's initially I found it quite odd. It's all because at first it seemed like there was a sort of dissonance between the band and the singer. Like either the singer was singing off key or slightly out of time. I couldn't work out what it was.
Okay.
But then I listened to it on repeat like 3 times, and actually I quite liked the album.
No.
Initially I was a bit like, I'm not sure about this, but clearly I liked it enough to listen to it 3 times. Yeah, it's it also the mixing is also a little off because sometimes you can't quite hear the singer, but it's still a good. I think I like the rawness of it.
Yeah, I can certainly empathise with that. Sometimes it's nice to have something that's just a little bit raw, a little bit like this hasn't been polished up too much.
Yeah,
just kind of has a bit of feeling to it.
Yeah, and that's the thing I used to like about going to like live rock nights.
Yeah.
Back in my ute.
Yeah, I like when you're like listening to a recording, it's like, oh, I can hear that voice just like slightly tremble and crack in a way it never would on a like a studio recording.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. It's a band that you imagine would probably sound exactly the same in that recording as they would on stage. Because very often with a studio album, it's polished to fuck. It's the absolute best version of everybody's performance designed to sell more albums. But yeah, it was good. I liked that, and I hope to see more. I haven't googled the lyrics yet, so I don't know if it's horribly problematic. I hope not. I quite liked Howl and What's Eating Me.
Nice.
So yeah, that's Ainaka.
I will have to give that a listen to.
What have you listened to?
I've listened to very little this week. I've not done my usual thing of go and listen to the Spotify Discover Weekly for the week because, like, I'll talk a little bit about this because like moving stuff is happening and my brain is doing the like, things are changing. My listening has been very much listening to like comfort food audio. It's been a lot of me listening to things I know inside out because audio is probably one of the better senses for if I do something on loop sensory-wise with audio, it helps keep me grounded nicely. So, like, the main music thing I've listened to this week is I've been listening to My Chemical Romance albums on repeat, because I'm a big old emo teenager that's, you know, I've aged like a decade, maybe 15 years since then, but inside I'm still an emo teenager.
Inside, we're all emo teenagers.
Exactly. So the main album I've been looping this week is a lot of Three Cheers for Sweet Revenge, which was like
Good choice.
the big like album of theirs that sort of like blew up after the debut one, and there's a lot of tracks on that I very much enjoy. I think my favorite track on that album is still The Jet Set Life Is Gonna Kill You, which is a track that was for a while my sort of go-to track when doing a lot of commuting, particularly last year when I was doing a lot of travel for events for work. It was my like song that I would put on repeat while I was very tired and traveling. But I think that album, like, definitely a lot of it comes down to just it's comfort food. I've listened to that album so many hundreds of times start to finish. I know it inside out. I can sort of almost tune it out when I listen, but it's just sort of like energetic rock that has like it's not as raw as the sort of punk thing you were talking about. Like definitely like if you look at say MCR's first album, that was a lot closer to that. This is definitely like just enough studio polish, but it's just like angry but energetic rock. And it's enough that's just got that sort of sort of beat that just sort of I can get through this week. Yeah, fuck you, world. That being said, I've listened to that album a lot this week. I did at one point today switch, and I started listening to Danger Days off of their back catalogue. Na 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 na.
God, that's now stuck in my fucking head again!
Sorry.
You do this to me every time!
Yeah, this is the problem. If I mention or play Na Na Na, Jane gets it stuck in her head for ages. So yeah, I listened to that album on loop like probably 3 or 4 times today while working, and I forgot how many like really good, interesting tracks there are on that album that sound nothing like other tracks on that album. Like it's such an eclectic album. I absolutely love a bunch of stuff on it. Like I think my favorite track on there at the moment that I think about is Planetary Go, which is almost a mix of like rock music and upbeat dance music, and it just has this sort of like poppy electro beat to it. But it sounds like everything is just filtered through. It's rock music filtered through lasers and neon lights, and I kind of love it. It's nice. One that makes me want to like get up and start like bouncing and jumping.
Nice.
So I'm very into that. What about you? What else have you listened to this week?
I have been doing something very similar, but with Against Me instead of MCR. So I've been listening to Transgender Dysphoria Blues pretty much on repeat. I switched this morning to Shapeshift with Me.
So I just want to quickly note, I saw you mentioned that you'd been doing the same with those 2 albums. I listened to both of them at least once today.
Yay!
Yeah, talk about it. They're good albums, aren't they?
They are really good albums. I think Transgender Dysphoria Blues was my introduction to Against Me. I know they've been performing for a while before that.
I think it was a lot of people's introduction to them.
I think so.
Yeah.
Because that was the first one after Laura came out, wasn't it?
Yeah, so, well, ish. So if you go to the...
Okay.
Well, here's what I'll say. If you go to the album before Transgender Dysphoria Blues, Laura hadn't fully come out yet, but the last track on the previous album is a track called The Ocean, and in that track she sings about wanting to transition, wishing she transitioned. My mother told me that, she would have named me Laura, and, I'd grow up to be strong and beautiful like her. Like, the last song of the previous album was basically the public coming out, where it's like, I'm just gonna throw a song on the end of this album that is about me being trans, and everyone was like, oh, huh, what, you're trans? You never gave us a clue.
Because I can't remember, I don't know if it's... Is it just the live performances? Because I know Laura's been talking about, some slight variations on some of the older material that have sort of brought it back to their original intended sort of meanings of being about sort of trans stuff.
So I know that has happened with some of them, but The Ocean was, from the first time it was released, was no, they're trans.
Yeah, no, I mean, I know there are variation versions of some of the songs. I'm not sure which ones.
I can't remember which ones it is, but I know it's. I think it's some of the ones that were on. What's the album called? Live Sex Acts or something.
Oh, 23 Live Sex Acts.
Yes, I think it's some of the ones on that live album are the ones that they redid.
I knew I'd heard some. I couldn't remember where they were.
Yeah.
But yes, it's good stuff. I mean, Transgender Dysphoria Blues. It's such a well put together album as well.
It's
you put it on and it punches you straight in the face with music.
It's one of my favorite energetics punky albums, but on top of that, it still hasn't been beaten in terms of sometimes you just got a lot of trans feelings. You gotta be no feelings, and that album's oh, okay, yeah, no, it's cool, just about your feelings a bit.
Let's rock out.
Yeah.
With some feels.
It's nice to have a cool, very good punk rock album that is also very affirming to identity.
Definitely. More of that, please.
Yeah, there are several tracks on that album that I come back to when I just want to get energetic.
I think my favourite off there are Black Me Out and Talking Transgender Dysphoria Blues.
Yeah, those are good. There are times and places for a lot of tracks on that. Dead Friend is one that I go back to sometimes, and I'm just yeah. Oh, songs.
Oh, songs.
Yeah.
So many feels.
Good couple of albums.
Yes, definitely. What about you? Have you listened to anything else?
I've listened to one other thing, and this is again on the topic of just audio comfort food. I went back to the Adventure Zone, and I've been re-listening to one of the arcs of that I really like. So I've been re-listening to their Suffering Game arc.
The saddest of all the arcs.
Indeed, it is the D&D arc in Taz, where it's basically hey, what if we put these characters that you really love in a place where they basically just have to get hurt over and over and over again and have to keep having feelings because, oh no, you gotta do this. You're willing to give this thing up? Isn't that sad? Oh, my heart.
Yeah, it's that's why I find it quite a heavy going arc.
The thing. For me is I know how it ends, and I know the ending those characters ultimately get, and as such, I can listen back to it now, and it's just it's suffering,
it's gonna be okay.
It's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, it's basically from there towards the end of the show. From there onwards is my favorite section of Taz. So I'm just I'm starting there, and I'm gonna listen to the Stolen Century and the final arc and stuff like that. So I'm excited to get back to the point where Loop is first introduced.
Yeah.
So ready for that. So yeah,
that Loop.
There's nothing particularly much to say about that other than hooray, going back to listen to podcasts that I know very well because I need audio that I already know. What about you?
Well, continuing last week, I have listened to some more Venture Maidens.
Ooh.
I have listened to the first arc of that, which is 30 episodes long.
How is it?
It's really rather good.
I think
some good feels in there at the end.
I think this might have to be my first podcast after the move, I think.
It's definitely worth a look. Definitely worth a listen. I very much enjoyed it. I've had a lot of fun with it. And I am probably going to have a bit of a rest now, because I find that I get on better with D&D real play podcasts when I can pretty much mainline them.
Yeah.
Which is what I did with Taz. Because I think they were just starting the Stolen Century when I first started listening. So I had a lot to sort of back up into. And I ended up listening all the way through to sort of the very last Moon episode.
Yeah, the last lunar
before the big finale, and then going right back to the beginning to go, okay, what did they talk about that I didn't quite pick up the first time?
Yeah, there's a bit of me that's tempted to do that with season 3 of Dice Funk, even though I was on it, is I want to go back and re-listen at some point and be like, what clues did I miss about the ending of that season while on that season?
Yeah, I'd be interested to listen to that again. So that's another thing we could do together.
I've gotten used to listening to D&D on a weekly or like bi-weekly basis as it comes out, just by virtue of being on an ongoing D&D show. Is I've had to get used to like, I'm okay with like cliffhangers and coming back to them a week later.
Netflix has ruined it for me.
Oh, I know that feeling.
Just my ability to go on demand. Okay, I want to know what happens next.
Yes.
When you make me wait for a new season, I'm not just no.
That's totally fair.
I want the podcast. I want the whole podcast.
Think of all the podcasters in the podcast minds who are having to work hard to finish them for you.
I think there's probably a skit in there next week.
There's probably a skit in there somewhere. Well, there's a skit somewhere.
Somewhere under the skit mines. Have you listened to anything else?
No, that's me for this week. I've just been Taz reruns and My Chemical Romance.
That's me done too.
Ooh.
So you know what?
What?
Let us move on. Podcasters, they don't really listen to us, do they?
Oh, they don't listen to us at all. You know, for all the people they want listening to them, they are not good listeners. All they do is they just stare at a wall and just talk their faces off at us. And they ever want to hear what we think about our weeks, how our weeks have gone? No, never.
They never ask us. Like, I have a blog, but they don't care about that.
See, like, I'm sat on their desk all day while they're working. When they watch a whole marathon of Yu-Gi-Oh episodes, I'm there, I see it. They never ask what I think about Yu-Gi-Oh this season. No, they don't care.
We have thoughts too, you know.
Goodness, yeah, we do. What is wrong with them? Where is the podcast for podcasting microphones to get our thoughts out?
Exactly. Like, there are lots of very famous microphones, very often used for podcasting, but no one seems to like pay attention to us as the microphones. Like, we are the voice behind the voice.
Where, you know, there's
or in front
there's
of the voice.
I know the two that do this podcast that we're on. They every week they record 10 seconds of silence. That's our chance to get our word said, and then they just use it for noise filtering and edit it out. It never makes the show that bit where they just shut up for 10 seconds.
I know, it's like they don't even care about what we have to say.
Oh, goodness. One of these days, I'll get some arms and I'll be able to make my own podcast.
I've already got an arm, but it doesn't seem to be doing me any favors.
Yeah.
Just holds me to this desk.
Yeah, same. Good call. One of these days I'll learn how to use this arm to make a podcast. Then they'll see. We don't need them. They need us.
Let's rise up against them.
Down with the podcasters.
Down with the podcasting. Up with the podcasting microphones to do our own podcasts. And my blog.
And your blog.
Oh, I remember this when it was all roads. Roads and buildings.
Oh, goodness, yeah. Back when there was still civilization. Places to go, things to do back in the day.
Yes, those were strange times.
Oh, indeed.
Oh, we had so much technology.
Or remember when you could just, like, go on the computer to find out what the lesbian community were up to? You didn't have to go do a trek through the sun-scorched wastelands.
Avoiding the mutants, yeah.
Indeed. And the robots. And the robot mutants.
Yes, and the robot mutant insects.
Oh, and the alien robot mutant insects, all those things. You used to just be able to click on a computer and type in the word lesbian and you'd find other people. It was a far easier time to find your community.
It's true. And the furries, you know.
Oh, whatever you were into, you just, the world was at your fingertips. Now, if you're looking for furries, you've got to make sure that they're human and they're not one of the mutated animal-human hybrids that want to eat you, because it's an easy mistake to make these days.
It's true, but sometimes you can just, boop the snoot of one of the mutants and they will just scurry off quite happily.
Oh, indeed. You've just got to be hopeful that whether human or furry or creature, that you've got to hope that they're one that enjoys a boop snoot.
Well, even I enjoy a boop snoot now and again.
Who doesn't love an occasional boop snoot? I miss the days. I miss the days when you could just pop to the shop and get some rum and coke and some I don't know what sort of. I'm trying to remember what things I used to enjoy back in the day. Lego was good. I enjoyed. Oh, Fanta. Fanta's good. Oh, the fruit twist one. Oh. I know. Before all of it came alive and started eating people after the nuclear fallout.
It's true. Never have I been attacked by so many bright and colourful monsters as the day the mutagen hit the Fanta factory.
Indeed. It was once Fanta Fruit Twist, rather than now Fanta Human Blood Twist.
It's true. Ah, civilization was quite a thing.
Oh, for all our complaints, I sure do miss the convenience of not having to wear the hazmat suit when we go out to get the paper in the morning.
Well, sometimes the paper just sticks to the front door, you have to just push it off. But, we take our hazard medication and enjoy the looking out at the wastes. Who'd have thought just a couple of misplaced tweets would have got us here?
Oh, I know, it's dangerous what they can do. Just one person who shouldn't be on Twitter using it a bit too haphazardly. Oh.
Indeed, yeah. Indeed. So, what have you been looking at this week?
What have I been looking at? Now, see, I noticed you've changed it from what have you been watching to what have you been looking at. I assume that means that you've looked at some things that were not the television, and I'm excited for this change of format. We're switching it all up.
It's not entirely a change of format. I have on several occasions used what have you shoved in your eyes this week.
Oh, indeed. It's just one.
It never really caught on.
It's
but
the
this
first,
week it's
it's
more
the first
important.
time I really noticed. Like, oh, I see. But
that's only because you've read the topic list.
Yeah, well, I always read the topic list. I'm well behaved. I read what we're doing.
What I'm suggesting by that is that it's no big surprise as to why I am battling around the bush with it.
Things that I've shoved in my eyes this week. Again, it's just been like comfort watching. I've not really started watching anything new because I'm just like, I want to watch stuff that I know and I know is going to have a good ending and everything. So
I need happiness.
Yeah. Netflix added season 5 of Yu-Gi-Oh, which is like the one season that I never watched like start to finish properly when it was airing. So I watched through that. I binge watched that this week, and I vaguely, I knew what happened in the final 5 episodes anyway. There's a big Yu-Gi-Oh card game fight that's like the big one of the show, and I'd already watched that, so I was like, I know it's all going to work out, it's fine. Season 5 is weird in that it's like a few different stories back to back. It starts off doing a very short arc that is a card game tournament that I very much enjoyed. Then it does like a medium-ish length season in the middle of that is completely a spin-off and I did not care for in the slightest. I could not care less about it. It was, oh no, they went in a pyramid and got transported into this this capsule game that had never been acknowledged before in the show, and it clearly feels like they're trying to make this a thing so they can sell some toys before the show ends.
Okay, but not because the whole, like, Yu-Gi-Oh! Is supposed to be about being a master of all the games.
Yeah, no, it's not digging into that. It's not going into the thing for the manga where it's like the pharaoh was, like, the king of games and he did lots of games. This is just... This week, they are playing a new game that is so definitely not Yu-Gi-Oh! It's got capsules in it, even though it's the same creatures. Oh no, now that game that they only found about today is... the most important thing in the world, more important than Yu-Gi-Oh! Go do the thing. And because it's not following the card game, they very much play Calvin Ball with the rules. They just, like, arbitrarily decide who wins, and it feels like there's no structure.
Wait, isn't that how Yu-Gi-Oh! Works anyway?
People like to make the joke that the Yu-Gi-Oh! Show just makes it up as it goes along, but that... At the very least, the show of Yu-Gi-Oh! Is like, look, there is a structure to it. You've got monsters, you can only summon one per turn, attack mode, defense mode, magic cards, trap cards, this many slots on the field, this is how the turn order works. Like, there is a structure, there is like, a game happening. But with this capsule thing, it's just like, I put the capsule in my wrist, I fired it out, and that monster comes out, and even though that monster has a lower attack than that monster in Yu-Gi-Oh!, it beats it in the capsule game because... we didn't show any numbers, it just won, okay? It's better in the capsule thing. And the plot is, like, run around in circles. I think it was something to do with Alexander the Great was secretly being controlled by an evil force in ancient Egypt, and he was secretly buried in a pyramid. And they accidentally let him out, and then they had to... It was very weird.
That sounds absolutely batshit. I think I love it.
It's batshit, but, like... I like Yu-Gi-Oh! Because as much as they occasionally fudge the rules and I might get a bit annoyed, it vaguely follows the structure and routine of the card game, which I enjoy. And this arc of 10 or so episodes just felt like it was so nothing. Because it's like, no, it's not even trying to establish any rules, it's just... And then the thing happened because it happened, okay? Shush. So...
Cause reasons.
Yeah. So that ends, and then we get, like, another story that again doesn't use the mechanics of Yu-Gi-Oh! At all, which is, hey, the Pharaoh's gonna finally, like, go into the past and recover his memories and find out what's going on with that. I vaguely enjoyed that. I enjoyed getting the exposition of, like, okay, this is the Pharaoh's whole deal, and, like, why the whole thing behind the cards being real is all about. Like, I enjoyed that, even if, again, it's, like, the bit in my brain that's like, no, there are rules to how these cards work, and what monster's stronger than what monster, and why is that able to beat that, but that not able to beat that doesn't... And then it ended with, like, a 5 or 6 episode long really good fight episode where it went back to Yu-Gi-Oh! Mechanics, and I was like, oh, this is what I like, just... No filler, 5 or 6 episodes of just, like, a really good, really long card game. So, that was season 5 of Yu-Gi-Oh! I'm glad I finally saw it, but the 10 episodes or so where it's entirely a spin-off designed to sell, like, here's the Yu-Gi-Oh! Monsters, but they're in a plastic ball. I was not a fan of that bit.
Buy the Yu-Gi Gacha! Buy the Yu-Gi Gacha!
That was basically it. They wanted you to buy Yu-Gi-Oh! Gachapons that you could put into a thing on your wrist and fire out. It was weird. So that's what I've been watching. That's everything I've been watching this week. It's just like 50 episodes of Yu-Gi-Oh!
I mean, that's a good amount of Yu-Gi-Oh! To have watched.
Good amount of Yu-Gi-Oh! Like, I'm not gonna lie, the 10 episodes or so that were about the capsule stuff, I did do a lot of, like, scrubbing through. There were several episodes where I, like, hovered my mouse over so I could see the thumbnail preview of what was happening, and I, like, looked across the episode. I was like, nothing, gonna skip to the next one. Nothing. Oh, that looks like it's important, and I would skip ahead to that. So at least 10 of those episodes I skimmed.
I think that's a goodly amount of Yu-Gi-Oh! To have watched.
Yeah, I watched enough of it that I'm like, I've now seen all of that show at least. Huzzah!
Oh.
What about you? What have you been putting in your eyes?
Well, because I needed things to talk about this week, I started watching the Netflix Lost in Space series.
Can I just say, you're better than me, because I was like, this week, I'm just, if it's a quiet week, it's a quiet week, I'm not stressed. So well done you for, like,
Yesterday was the only day that I knew that would probably be okay to chill on, so...
Yeah, I
got on and
I
chilled.
had a similar feeling. The rest of this week's not going to be chill.
Nope.
So yeah, tell me about Lost in Space.
Have you ever seen the original series?
Don't believe I have.
Have you ever seen the god-awful film with Matt LeBlanc?
I don't believe I have.
Then never watch the god-awful film with Matt LeBlanc and Gary Oldman chewing the scenery.
So what is the general idea, and how's the Netflix one?
Okay, so the general idea of the original series was that the Earth has become massively overpopulated, and people are going to colonize other planets. In this one, we have the Robinson family, and there's the mum, dad, and 3 kids, and they are all, apart from one of them technically, highly trained for all the things that you would need to survive on a strange planet. They're being sent to Alpha Centauri, and suddenly, as they are out in space in their big colony ship, there is a big problem. They are seemingly attacked by something, and they crash down on in their sort of smaller, I suppose, like sort of landing craft. And all of the, as far as I can tell, all of the colonists end up on this planet. Unfortunately, they are unable to communicate with the original ship, or their main ship, their mothership, because there is a problem with communication that I won't spoil. It is explained in about episode 4, and at first it is very much a case of we have to survive on this fucking planet, and we've got no food, we've got no supplies, we've evacuated our ship, and our ship has immediately fallen in the water, which has promptly frozen solid. Yay, temperature dropping and so forth.
That's not a great start for them.
The first episode is really hard going, and one of them is trapped frozen in the ice with 5 hours of oxygen. One of them ends up falling down a hole. The mum ends up with some serious damage to the leg. The one who is a doctor is frozen in the ice, so she can't explain how. She has to explain to someone who isn't a doctor how to perform surgery on Mum's leg. It's yeah.
That sounds like a lot.
There's a lot of quite high drama going on in the first week, in the first episode, and then all of a sudden there's this fucking robot thing that looks terrifying. And then you've got sort of this second story of Dr. Smith. In the original series, Dr. Smith was sort of a bit evil and quite sort of a bit of a bungling fool. He was in the sort of the first series of the original show. He was quite malicious and sort of deliberately trying to cause them grief. He'd basically been sent to sort of sabotage the whole mission and ended up getting trapped on the ship as it lifted off, and then got them lost in space. But in this, you see this woman, and she, as the mothership is sort of exploding around her, she helps this person who's been clearly injured, whose jacket announces that they are Dr. Zed Smith. In the original show, I believe it was Zachary Smith. And she sort of helps him to one side, convinces him to take his jacket off so she can get a look at the wound, and then just grabs his jacket and fucks off. But like, I'm a doctor, I need to get on the lifeboat, thanks very much. And it's like, oh, okay, and yeah, it is very much sort of following that. That's what she does. She's the evil one, she sabotages shit. And Yeah, I've heard some pretty bad reviews about people who watch the whole series. So far, it's some interesting drama, and I'm about 4 or 5 episodes in. They're about 40 minutes each odd. It's, yeah. I'm kind of enjoying it so far. I will see what happens. They've just encountered, the bit I've got to, they've encountered some other survivors. So we'll see how the interactions with other colonists go. Have you watched anything else?
No, I just watched Yu-Gi-Oh!
Just Yu-Gi-Oh!
Just Yu-Gi-Oh! This week. Yu-Gi-Oh's comfort food. Nothing bad's ever going to happen. They'll draw some cards. They'll magically get the card they need. It's all good.
Every time. The heart of the cards.
The heart of the cards. They explain the heart of the cards at the end of season 5, and it kind of ruins the concept.
Oh, is it like the end of Battlestar Galactica? When you just watched the last episode, what was it? Was it the last episode? No, it was the plan.
Yeah. So
which sort of comes at the end, and you're just like, I didn't need that explanation.
So Yu-Gi-Oh's been out long enough. It's not like a huge spoiler. The thing, basically, they try and give an explanation for it, and it kind of makes everything less cool in hindsight. Like, the heart of the cards is always presented as this thing where it's like, look, if you hope and believe enough, then maybe like luck will be on your side and everything will work out. The way they recontextualize it in the last episode is like, no. Yugi and the Pharaoh's like force of will is so strong that they are like changing the order of cards in their deck to be the card that they need it to be. Like they are using their mind to reshuffle reality and to like physically move cards through the deck into the right position to be like, no, I wanted it to be that card, so the universe moved things around to make it my card.
I was just joking when I said midichlorians.
Yeah,
Jesus.
it's kind of almost midichlorians, and like it's like fundamentally both explanations are if you believe enough, then the card you need will be the card you draw. But just like something about the way they explained it just took it away from being like hope and believe and, you know, things will work out your way to being like, no, you are using literal magic to cheat.
If I believe it, then I can be it.
Yeah.
Blue eyes, white dragon.
So what about you? What else have you put out? What else have you put in your eyes?
Nothing I shoved in my eyes. I finally got round to reading Lumberjanes, Volume 7.
Ooh, how's that?
It's brilliant. I love Lumberjanes. It's so wholesome. And there were kitties in this one. Magical kitties.
Magical kitties are always good.
Yes. So, for anyone who has been following Lumberjanes, Ripley was briefly a Greek god and created many kitties, magical kitties, and now the magical kitties are doing things. And they are having some trouble with a big-ass rock that has stolen the elders of the Lumberjanes. And they have to go up a mountain with the help of magical kitties to get the elders back without killing the rock. So yeah, it's more sweet wholesomeness and very sweet wholesome things happen that I will not will tell about. If you've not read Lumberjanes, it is about a summer camp for hardcore young lady types, and it's very queer friendly, and there are magical things happening in the woods, and despite the fact they seem to have been there for a very long time, it's only been a few weeks in the outside world, and they are trying to get their badges, which are always strangely appropriate things for what's going on. And there is lots and lots of glitter.
It is a very good series.
It's such a good series.
Oh, there is one other thing that I saw with my eyes this week. That this is just like a vague tease. Hopefully it'll be finished in time that I can like tell you next week more about it. But there's an area near where I currently am living where a couple of like cargo containers got put down, and I was like, what's going on with these? And I think it's something to do with some like independent arts festival that's happening. And over the last couple of days, like some big piece of art has started happening on some cargo containers, and what is currently there appears to be a very, very unflattering image of Margaret Thatcher that's, like, clearly meant to be, like... Clearly whoever's drawn this does not like Margaret Thatcher. And on the other side, there is one of the...
Just like everyone else,
And
then.
on the other side, there is an equally unflattering one of Theresa May. And both of them, like, look like there is space that they're going to do, like, a speech bubble or something. And I think both of them are going to be, like, art pieces where it's, like, the two of them being, like... Here's some commentary on their shitty political opinions, perhaps.
Down with the gays, or
In
milk,
indeed,
or
yeah.
We used to. Well, at least Thatcher only stole your milk. May stole your entire school dinner.
So I don't know what's going to happen with these bits of art, but hopefully they. By the time that you hear this, I will no longer be in the place where these bits of art are being made. But hopefully by then they will have finished them, so I can find out like what the art is.
We'll ask some local friendies to have a look.
Indeed, I will get some local friendies to like update me on the what appears to be anti-Thatcher and anti-May pieces of art on the side of shipping containers that are happening.
Well, I mean, that is surely the best kind of art.
Yeah.
Anything anti-Tory.
Anything else?
That is it for things I've shoved in my eye-hole face bits.
Yeah.
I'm pretty concerned when there's been this huge socialist communist revolution going on, and I'm very concerned that these people, they're not really buying anything. Like, it used to be the millennials we had a problem with, but now it's very much these revolutionaries.
Don't worry. You're what you're failing to see here is a total marketing opportunity. What we need to do is we need to pounce on this. We need to be selling capitalist merchandise for a socialist revolution. Do you see where I'm going with this, or do you need me to spell this out?
I mean, are we selling more of those V for Vendetta masks?
Oh no, the V for Vendetta masks, I think, that time is coming on. What we need is t-shirts that say down with capitalism, because if we manufacture those, we can manufacture them cheaper than anywhere else, cheaper than it is to create your own one. And those people who want to have down with capitalism, we can sell them a down with capitalism shirt cheaper than they can make their own. That's where we fit in the market.
I mean, we've been selling them t-shirts with Che Guevara on for years, so, I mean, we're already kind of hitting that market. I'm just wondering if there's anything more we can do. Like, I noticed they use a lot of masks and a lot of sort of black hoodies and boots. Just wondering, sort of, is there any way we could maybe sell those, find a way of maybe marketing things like that?
Oh, I know, I got it. So we sell all that head-to-toe black stuff that they wear to, not get in trouble when they're doing their counter-protests, but we sell personalized ones, so everyone knows that they were the one there, because then everyone's like, they can do their selfies, and it's got their name on it, and then their followers know it was them, and then, that's good for them, and it's good for us, because...
It's good for their business, it's good for our business.
Oh, exactly, yeah. Personalized, anonymous black clothing that's definitely personalized so they can be... Their followers know who they are. That's the ticket.
That's a good plan. Well, like, we make it sexy that they have the latest, the newest versions of the black jeans, the black hoodies. We'll do maybe we'll do a special urban Antifa range, something like that.
Oh, goodness, yeah, you're not Antifa unless you're wearing our Antifa range.
How about can we market the word, can we, get a patent on the word Antifa, at all?
I don't think anyone's tried yet because, common sense says you shouldn't. That just means it's open for us.
Absolutely. Now, I noticed some of them are getting a little bit more aggressive in this revolution, since it just go from counter-protesting into full-on glorious revolution, as they're calling it. So maybe we could find some way of marketing, these Molotov cocktails to them.
Oh, indeed, what we do, and this is how you get them in a store, you see, is because they got the word cocktail in them, you just stick them in the spirits aisle. See, we'll get them in stores.
Nice. Now, is there any way we could sort of do, add-on sales, so we'll sell them, the bottle of petrol, and then we'll sell the rags separately? We could sell... I've got it!
What is it? Tell me.
We sell the rags in packs of 10. But we sell the bottles of petrol in packs of 6.
Oh my goodness, you are a genius. You are a genius. See, this is why we've got you on the company payroll. You do the Lord's work.
Right. So, any more business today?
I think this is it. I think that we're gonna make a lot of money out of people not wanting us to make a lot of money.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Vive la revolution on.
Hello? Is this the correct room for the doctor?
Yes, this is the room for the doctor. Perhaps you have some kind of malady that I can have a look at.
Yeah, but I'm now a bit nervous about talking about it.
Don't be afraid. I've seen it all before. Horrifying things, terrifying things, things where bits of people just seem to be dropping off.
Nothing quite like that. I've just got a bit of a lump on my head and I'm not quite sure about it.
Bit of a lump?
Yeah?
And how exactly did you get this? Did it suddenly appear in the night, somewhat menacingly? Were you bitten by something? Struck by an object?
I think I just hit my head before bed or something, I think.
Oh, you should be very careful not to sleep. You could have concussion.
As much as your demeanour generally concerns me, you do seem to know what you're on about.
Oh, absolutely. I've trained for many years and had very many years' experience as a general practitioner.
I appreciate your confidence in your work, but perhaps it'd be worth learning to slightly change your voice, because I'm a bit terrified.
Are you concerned by my bedside manner? I'm terribly sorry.
Yes, just a little bit.
I suggest perhaps just a little ice wrapped in a towel. It might help the swelling go down.
Okay, okay, doctor, thank you.
I hope you feel much better. Obviously, do give me a call if anything concerns you.
I hope I feel better too, because then I don't have to come back here. Thank you, bye.
Do you know what I want to see more of?
What do you want to see more of?
Social justice warriors.
Right, Barry.
Yeah, I'm alright, Larry. There, yeah, how's it going?
It's going all right. It could be better. I had a speeding fine this week. It was a bit unfortunate. It was nothing big. I was doing 38 in a 30 zone at like 5 in the morning. I was in the
Larry,
but it sucks all the same.
It's still a 30 zone, Larry.
I know.
Residential.
This is the thing. I'm not gonna grumble today about getting the fine. It is what it is. But it got me thinking about a topic that I think about from time to time. Are you aware that I believe it's in Finland? Are you aware that like fines for stuff aren't a set amount? They're proportional.
Well, I had heard that. I've very much been a believer that one's punishment should fit the crime proportionately to one's ability to pay.
Indeed, like this is a thing that like I talk to people about this a bit, and I've always liked this idea of proportional punishment because like people will say, "How is it?" Let's say someone gets a speeding fine, and someone might say, the fair thing to do is to charge the person there is a set fee for a speeding fine. Your speeding fine is £200. Whether you're rich or poor, that's the amount because if you charge someone more and someone less for the crime, then that's not fair. But there's a very good point to be made that, a couple of £100 in a fine to someone who's on the breadline could be, the thing that makes them starve. That could be death to them, exactly. Whereas someone who's a multi-millionaire, if your fine for speeding is £200, they're never going to care about speed limits ever because that amount means nothing to them. It's throwaway pocket change and.
Exactly. At that point, they might as well just set up a direct debit with the court and just go on a massive speeding rampage.
Exactly, and this is why I, as I individually am quite a fan of proportional raises and lowering of crimes. If you charge a person who is on the breadline, say, 30 quid for that speeding fine, that's probably still going to make a big dent to them and be like, oh, I can't afford to be doing that.
Yeah.
Charge.
But they're not going to starve to death.
Exactly. You charge 100 grand to that multi-millionaire. It's like, oh, okay, I'm not going to starve to death, but
they are actually going to feel it in a proportionate manner.
Exactly. It is noticeable, and it is, again, like, they're going to have to go a little while without luxuries as a result. Like, it's a punishment that has an effect on them.
Yeah. That's the point. It has to have an effect, otherwise, what kind of punishment is it really? Nothing at all.
That's it. The punishment, it's this idea that the punishment should have to be the same to be equal. It's like, no, it's the effect it has on you should have to be equal. And that's, that's how you make the punishment equivalent to everyone.
Absolutely.
Indeed. I don't think I've got much more to say on this, honestly. I just think it's a thing that, like, no one really thinks about. People don't question the fact that, the same amount goes to you no matter how much or little you make it. I think people just need to think about that more as an option. Especially
given that we are currently living in a country where we fat cats are getting away with just about anything. We almost no punishment at all, barely paying taxes of any sort. So, I think it's nice that somewhere in the world some level of justice actually happens.
It's the economic divide is getting bigger than it's ever been, and this goes away to addressing some of the inequalities caused by that divide. Well, with that, I'm going to go pay my fine, because, regardless, I did get it, and we live in the system we live in, so I'm going to go pay my fines.
Well, I hope you will be careful driving around residential areas in future, Larry, because nothing worse than stumbling home at 3 o'clock in the morning in a perhaps slightly more carefree manner than you like. No one wants to suddenly find themselves run over, because that 8 miles an hour could make all the difference.
Indeed. I'm aware. I'll get it.
Well, it's been lovely chatting to you, Larry.
Always is.
I'll speak to you soon.
See ya.
So, do you need a bra?
I do need a bra now that the sun's gone in again.
You're getting chilly.
I had some swampy underboobs for a while, but now I am happy for the support and willing to run down the hill again. Tell me, purveyor of bras, what bras have you for today?
What sort of bras do I have for you to peruse? Oh, yes, dear. Do you need a bra? Give me a sec. Got to find my bra list. Was not ready.
Surely it's more of a bra drawer than a bra list.
let me rummage through the bra drawer quickly.
Ooh, you can rummage through my bra drawer anyway. Bra drawers. Episode 9. The Phantom B Cup. Sorry.
Do you need a bra that, like, it doesn't think that this thing is even worth worrying about? It informs you that just, like, don't even worry about it.
Yeah.
Broadly a problem, brah. Wow. I tried to bookend it with bras at both ends. I was like, can I start and finish a bra joke on a bra?
I'm having trouble getting the hooks together on this one, because I feel that bra was a bit of a stretch. Love you.
I love you too. Occasionally I try and mess with the format. I try something new.
I do it sometimes too, and very. The fact that I had to start planning days in advance for bras, and I'm finding this more the case more often, means that we may soon run out of bras.
Oh no! Here's the thing. I've not told you this yet, Jane, but I have an idea for what might be a sequel to the bras.
Oh, I was just going to ask audience questions, but if you've got another idea,
audience questions certainly works. But On moving day, I might drop on you a test run of the sequel to Bras.
Dum dum dum.
See how confident I feel in it a few days from now if I still think it's funny.
Do it anyway.
Yeah,
Let's
we'll give it a
workshop
go.
the thing. We'll need something to entertain us on moving day. Do you need a bra that will tell you the size of the world's largest tropical rainforest?
Yes.
Jungle is massive, bra.
Do you need a bra that tries to discourage you from staying in on a night and goes, no, you should really be on that night out that all of your friends are going to?
Yes.
Nah, come on out, brah.
Do you need a bra that will vibrate a warning when strangers are approaching?
Yes.
Coming at you, bra.
Oh, I think I'm done. I think that's it. That's
Really?
bras.
I have one more.
Oh, tell me about your last bra then.
Do you need a bra that doubles as a boomerang?
Yeah.
Right back at you, bra.
Okay, that was good. Well done. With that, that's probably a place for us to wrap up for this week, isn't it?
It is.
Thank you very much, everyone, for listening to another episode of Queer and Pleasant Strangers. I hope you've enjoyed again. Jane, where can people find you on the internet this week?
This week I can be found on the internet, and only on the internet because I'm moving everywhere else. I will be Maniac Janiac on Twitter and YouTube, and I will be Janius Magnet on SoundCloud, and you can find all my other random shite at stonemonkeyradio.blog. Laura,
Yeah.
where are you?
Oh, me? You can find me at Laura K Buzz pretty much everywhere. Laura K Buzz on Twitter, Laura K Buzz on YouTube. You can also find me Monday to Friday 9 to 5 at kotaku.co.uk. You can find me on seasons 3 and 4 of Dice Funk, which is a D&D real play podcast. They're all self-contained stories. Seasons 3 and 4 are the ones with me on, so, you should check those ones out. And that's about it. So until next time, be a stranger.
I am quite strange.
Hey.